3 spine-chilling true night drive horror tales that expose sinister secrets and unexplained terror. Jessica gripped the wheel tightly, the grip of fear squeezing at her chest. Each glint of moonlight off the polished car drew her deeper into a haunting worry. The streets of Maplewood, once a comforting ribbon of home, transformed into a tunnel of lurking shadows. With every turn, she felt watched, the prickling sensation crawling up her spine. It started out as a simple late-night drive home from the hospital. But now? Now it was a descent into a chilling mystery that felt all too real. On those winding, tree-lined roads, a sinister figure fluttered in her rear-view mirror. At first, she brushed it off, a mere trick of the light, surely. But night after night, as she drove home from her exhausting shifts, the figure gained definition. A gaunt face, hollow eyes hauntingly familiar. It was unmistakably Tom, her former neighbor who had disappeared 5 years ago without a trace. Panic twisted in Jessica's gut. Rumors of other disappearances crept across town, murmurs echoing unease. Was this dark specter a reminder, or something much worse? As she maneuvered through familiar streets, her heart raced not just from dread, but from a growing sense of urgency. Why was she seeing him? What did it mean? Fog rolled in thick, clinging to her windshield as shadows stretched further across the sidewalks. It was too quiet. Even the crickets seemed to hold their breath. Memories of her grandmother's tales about the protector of children blurred in her mind. Dark figures that prowled through the night looking for vengeance. Whispers of betrayal danced on the tongue of her anxiety. She received an anonymous message on her phone, warning her to stay clear of the old school at the end of the street. Abandoned, suffocated in local legends of curses and secrets. Ignoring all instincts screaming at her, she decided to venture inside. She needed to know. Pulling into the lot, she felt a wave of nausea wash over her. The building loomed ahead, jagged and decayed like a mouth twisted in an eternal scream. Moonlight flickered through shattered glass, revealing a space brimming with forgotten memories. Her footsteps echoed ominously as she stepped inside, the air stale and heavy with secrets. This was a place that breathed fear. With each creak of the floor, Jessica's pulse pounded in her ears. Suddenly, a soft whisper broke the stillness. Jessica, the voice chilled her veins. She spun around, heart hammering. Nothing but shadows loomed in the corners. The hairs on her arms stood on end. A figure emerged from the darkness, silhouetted against the wreckage of her childhood. It was the shape from her mirror, twisting the air thick with dread. Was it Tom? Or something else? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The overwhelming urge to flee crashed over her, yet she stood frozen. Peering closer, the figure's features emerged clearly. It was a sickening reflection of betrayal. This wasn't just Tom, it felt personal, angry. Heart racing, she felt trapped, a chilling realization eating away her sense of safety. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a fragile lifeline, but as she reached for it, everything darkened. The shadows swallowed her whole, whispering secrets of Maplewood's darkest nights, and Jessica stood on the edge of her world unraveling. What waited beyond that shadowy figure? What truth lay hidden in the depths of her once beloved home? The grip of dread tightened as she prepared to face a darkness more profound than she could ever imagine. Would she unravel the mystery, or would she too become another name lost in Maplewood's twisted history? The air thickened with an unsettling energy that temporarily paralyzed Jessica's instincts. Shadows wrapped around her like icy fingers, promising both secrets and nightmares. Then came the whispers again, more urgent, echoing her name like a sinister chant. Jessica, it felt wrong, twisted. She instinctively took a step back, her heart thumping violently against her ribs. The figure shifted, the outline becoming clearer, more defined. Tom's face was etched with pain, a deep sorrow mingled with fury. She wanted to reach out, to shake him from whatever terrible fate held him captive. Words clawed at her throat, but they wouldn't come out. Then everything shifted again. A flicker of movement drew her attention to the crumbling walls, each board creaking under the weight of forgotten tales. Jessica turned sharply, a feeling of dread gnawing at her insides. The darkness around her seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting as if alive. She wasn't alone. Tension prickled at the back of her neck. Had that always been there? A shuffling sound, slow but deliberate, echoed through the abandoned halls. Clenching her fists, she spun around, every sense on high alert. "Tom?" she called, aware of how fragile her voice sounded. Silence replied, thick and suffocating. Desperation flooded her veins. She needed to escape the haunted remnants of her past, but something drew her to the figure once more. "Why?" she finally said, her voice barely a whisper. The shadows coalesced into an embrace around Tom as if safeguarding secrets that had been locked away for too long. A dark truth palpitated in the air, waiting to be uncovered. Suddenly, the ground beneath her vibrated as though the very structure of the building might collapse. A grating roar, like metal dragging against stone, reverberated around her, slicing through the eerie silence. Her pulse raced, a disorienting rush overwhelming her senses. She turned, eyeing the exit that seemed another world away. But as she took a step, the floor beneath her crumbled. She stumbled, narrowly catching herself as dust billowed around her. The air crackled with a grim sense of alert. She felt watched, stared at by unseen eyes she couldn't comprehend. The walls whispered accusations, beckoning her to join their secrets, but she was more afraid of their truths. "Help me." Tom's voice shattered the air, raw and desperate. Jessica's heart lunged. His face twisted in an anguished grimace, the expression a haunting mix of torment and anger. "They are coming. You must leave." He reached toward her, his fingers trembling. What was happening? It was as if the room itself was losing sanity. And then came a low growl from somewhere in the shadows, an unsettling sound that thrummed with menace. Goosebumps erupted along her skin. No more hesitation. With fear propelling her forward, Jessica turned to run. But as she raced toward the exit, the hallway seemed to stretch endlessly. Panic clawed at her throat, her own breath becoming a fresh reminder of terror. The air felt heavier, a grip of dread tightening her lungs, her vision blurring as she fought through the thick darkness. Was it too late? The shadows closed in, and the growling turned into a laugh, a chilling sound that promised despair. A wave of cold washed over her as she neared the door, the laughter haunting her very soul. She swung it open, the dark expanse of night lay beyond, yet she hesitated at the threshold. Behind her, Tom's voice broke through the chaos, desperate and pleading. "Jessica! Don't leave me here." Would she turn back? Was there still hope for Tom? Or was she just another fool lost in Maplewood's deadly web? The decision loomed like a shadow itself, and the night seemed to pulse with expectancy, waiting to see what she would do next. With a shaky breath, Jessica felt the weight of indecision crush down on her. She could feel the darkness creeping closer, its icy tendrils curling around her legs like vines. The whispers grew louder, mingling with the laughter that sent shivers racing down her spine. "You have to choose," the darkness seemed to mock her. "Jessica." Tom's voice was both a plea and a command, cutting through her hesitance. But what choice did she really have? The shadows pulsed with a hunger that made her stomach twist. She could sense it, an otherworldly menace that threatened to devour her whole. It seeped into her mind, planting seeds of doubt, but still the flicker of hope for Tom ignited something deep within her. With a burst of adrenaline, she turned back toward Tom. His pained visage anchored her to reality, a tether through the maelstrom of dread. "I want to leave you," she screamed. The words echoed and ricocheted around the room, but the darkness didn't relent. It howled back, the shadows lashed out, clawing at her, trying to pull her apart from the inside out. She felt the air shift, a heavy presence pulsating behind her as if the walls were alive, demanding tribute. Jessica forgot her fear for a split second, knowing she had to fight against whatever had a hold on Tom and on this place. Rushing toward him, she dodged the encroaching blackness, reaching out for Tom's outstretched hand. He gripped her tightly, but his eyes were wild, like a trapped animal. "We must go. Now." The ground trembled again, a violent quake that shook the very foundation of the building. An ominous crack appeared in the floor between them, a gaping maw ready to swallow them whole. Jessica's mind raced, the claustrophobic walls seeming to close in, suffocating her. In that fleeting moment, she remembered the stories she had heard growing up, warnings about the remnants of Maplewood and the spirits that haunted it. What if it wasn't exaggeration? What if something truly evil lurked within? Her thoughts spiraled until a new realization hit her: is it too late for him? As Tom's strength pulled her closer, she felt his grasp slacken for just a fraction of a second. An agonized look crossed his face, and panic surged through her veins. "You need to let go of me, it's the only way." "No. I won't abandon you." Screams tore from her throat, raw with urgency. But could she save him without saving herself? Guilt battled against the instinct for survival. Suddenly, a scream pierced through the darkness, high, echoing, chilling. Jessica's breath caught in her throat, the horrid sound ricocheting off the walls like a warning. Something was coming for them, something that thrived on despair. The laughter grew louder and echoed with a malicious glee, growing closer as if anticipating their failure. "Jessica!" Tom's voice snapped her out of her stupor. "You must go." Tears brimmed in her eyes, crystallizing her fear. The shadows contorted around him, obscuring his form, drawing him in. With a final glance back, she ran. Her feet pounded on the decaying floor, the wind of her panic swirling in her wake. Each step felt like a betrayal, a stab straight through her heart. Desperation clawed at her throat, she could feel the darkness pursuing, urging her to look back. But she knew she could not. The corridor widened before her, stretching and bending like a fever dream. She had to escape. This building was falling apart, and with it, the last remnants of what she thought she knew about Tom. Outside, the night was uninviting, a bleak void opening before her. The darkness from within threatened to spill into her world. She had to push further, away from the collapsing relic of her past. But that scream, that haunting cry, it lingered like a curse on her soul. Suddenly, she was knocked forward as something invisible slammed into her back, sending her sprawling onto the cold ground. A chilling weight settled on her chest, and she gasped. Its breath was foul and rotten, as if the shadows themselves had arrived. Looking up through the impending fog of night, she saw nothing, yet felt everything, and then silence. Rising onto her knees, Jessica searched the darkness, frantically calling out for Tom, but the only response was the echo of her own voice swallowed by the dense night. Just then, a familiar sensation washed over her. The hushed whispers began again, but this time, they were different, soft and inviting, as if promising to reveal everything if she would only listen. "Jessica," they called, teasing and beckoning her into the depths of the unknown. What was waiting for her on the other side of that darkness? Would it lead her back to Tom, or would she become ensnared in the very shadows she sought to escape? Jessica's heart thundered in her chest as the darkness loomed over her. The whispers danced around her ears, pulling her deeper into a veil of dread. "Listen to us, Jessica," they echoed, their tone sweet and sinister all at once. "All your questions can be answered." She squeezed her eyes shut, summoning all her courage. "I don't want to know," she shouted, the weight of her voice seeming to push back against the unseen forces. But it only made the whispers grow more insistent, relentless. As she struggled to regain her balance, the ground beneath her trembled again, cracks spiderwebbing outward like the rending of ancient earth. She had to move, had to escape, but her legs felt rooted to the spot. Each breath felt heavy, laced with fear, too thick to inhale completely. Suddenly, a presence shifted beside her. Jessica felt a chill brush against her cheek, like fingers taunting her from the edge of reality. Panic surged anew. She forced her eyes open, eyes wide, scanning the empty shadows for any sign of life or death. "Tom!" She cried out again, but the name was a soft whimper lost to the howling wind of night. Why didn't he come? Was he trapped in the very darkness that consumed this wretched place? The shadows twitched, and for a split second, she saw a figure, a faint outline flickering like a dying bulb, almost like Tom, desperate and reaching for her. Then it vanished, swallowed by the gloom. No. It couldn't be. The thought paralyzed her. Was it merely a cruel trick played by the darkness? Jessica willed herself to move forward, forcing one foot in front of the other. Each step felt like a fight against a current, fighting through water thickened with despair. The air was saturated with a smell she couldn't place, a mix of rust, desperation, and decay. It clung to her, filling her lungs as dread settled in her stomach like stone. She padded down the corridor, now feeling the walls closing in, brushing against her arms like specters wanting to drag her into their fold. The whispers turned harsh, angry. They screeched, "Don't you want to know what happened to him? Why don't you join him?" "No!" she yelled, pressing her hands to her ears. "I want to listen." The ground shook violently beneath her, and she staggered back, the full force of the darkness crashing against her. It was a chaotic cacophony, screams and laughter twisted together, creating a symphony of terror. The walls seemed to squirm, and shadows writhed like hungry serpents. The temperature dropped sharply, pieces of ice forming in the air, sending tremors through her skin. Desperation clawed at her mind. What if there was a way to save Tom? The memories of their laughter together bubbled up, igniting a flicker of hope. "I can't let him go," Jessica cried, voice booming against the oppressive silence. "I will find you, Tom." Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, as if her resolve had stunned them. A seemingly endless hallway stretched before her, illuminated faintly, the faintest glimmers of light dancing at its end. Jessica took a step toward that brightness, panic mixing with courage surging through her veins. Then she heard it, a soft voice, unmistakably Tom's. "Help me, Jessica." Her stomach twisted, a deep hunger of despair echoing through her. She ran, propelled by that haunting voice, but the floor bucked violently below her feet. With every step, the air thickened, and the walls pressed inward, mocking her desperate charge. As she neared the light, it flickered like a heartbeat, pulsing with life. "I'm coming," she shouted, her voice rasping, fighting against the encroaching shadows. Yet just as she felt the warmth radiate towards her, darkness surged from the sides, pulling her back, holding her captive once more. The whispers melded into a chilling crescendo. "It's too late, Jessica. Join us or never leave." In that moment of anguish, Jessica was torn between the desperate need to save Tom and the suffocating grip of despair threatening to claim her. With each moment stretching into an eternity, she thought of the darkness that infested Maplewood and the evil that fed on souls lost to despair. The question lingered, piercing her heart: would she sacrifice herself to save him, or would she be swallowed whole by the very shadows she feared? In her heart, Jessica knew the truth might be more terrifying than anything the darkness could reveal. But what waited for her at the end of the light? Tom, or the abyss? The chilling laugh of the shadows filled her ears once more, drowning her in the rush of the spiraling fear. What was lurking just ahead? Would it mark her salvation or her doom? The shadows burrowed into Jessica's mind, a suffocating blanket of despair clawing at her sanity. "Join us," they hissed, each syllable a dagger driving deeper into her heart. She slammed her eyes shut, the memory of Tom's voice pulling her back. "Help me, Jessica." Desperation turned to fury. "No!" she roared, surprising herself. "I will not be your puppet." With every ounce of strength, she forced herself forward again, fighting against the pull that threatened to drag her down into their ghastly embrace. But the walls swelled, their grotesque forms eager to entrap her. The light at the end flickered, teasing her like a distant star lost in the storm. With each step she took, darkness clawed at her heels, hissing vile promises of secrets that could lead her to Tom. "Don't you want to know why he is trapped?" they taunted. Ice-cold fingers encircled her neck, tightening like a vice. She choked, thrashing as panic threatened to steal her breath. They were right. What if knowing could save him? What if taking a step closer to the truth was worth the risk? Tom and Jessica together forever, they sang, their voices creating a sickening melody. All you have to do is surrender. The ground shifted beneath her, vibrating with anger and energy. Jessica felt the heat of her resolve waver, sweat pooling at her brow. She could taste the rust of fear as it filled her mouth. What if she really was too late? A bright flash broke the suffocating darkness, an explosion of colors that momentarily illuminated the corridor. Jessica squinted, spotting a figure in the distance, suspended in that brilliant glow. It was Tom, his eyes wide and filled with terror. "Jessica! Please, get away!" he screamed, his image flickering like a dying flame. "No!" she shouted, horror crashing through her. "I'm not leaving you." Before she could take another step, the shadows surged forward, engulfing her in ice-cold tendrils. Screams reverberated around her, swirling like a tempest, a symphony of anguish that filled the air. She struggled against their might, every pulse of her heart resonating through her whole body with the desperation to save him. "Join us, Jessica." The whispers laughed. "Let him go." Jessica screamed, her voice hoarse. She pushed against the pain, fighting tooth and nail. "I want to abandon him. I want to let you take me." Suddenly, from the depths of the chaos, she felt warmth, an ember of hope. The light flickered and swelled as if responding to her will. "Tom!" she shouted, longing to hear his voice again, feel his presence beside her. "I'm coming." In one explosive movement, she tore through the veil of shadows, propelling herself toward the light. Gritting her teeth, she felt the dark tendrils snap against her skin, pulling but not holding. She burst into the radiance, the warmth flooding over her. But reality twisted grotesquely as she emerged. Jessica stumbled, gasping, finding herself back in the very room she feared she would escape, where echoes of laughter twisted, where ghostly figures danced just out of reach. The walls pulsed as if alive, and there stood Tom, a hollow husk of who he once was, mirroring the inevitable decay of despair. "Help me," he croaked, eyes darkening, pleading. "No! No!" She lunged forward, grasping for him. But she was trapped in this renewed abyss. The laughter grew louder, drowning her in a storm of despair that pulsed with promise and agony. The realization crashed over her like a wave she hadn't escaped. The whispers returned, singing their cruel lullaby, "You're one of us now," forever entwined in the darkness. Jessica's breath quickened, heart racing as she recognized the horrifying truth: the light was a trap, and the shadows were never going to let her go. "Perhaps the answers are worse than the questions," they cooed, voices dripping with delight. As the consuming weight of her fate descended upon her, she thought of how perilous the cost of salvation could be. Ahead, the shadows promised secrets, but which ones would tear her world apart? What would she discover about Tom and herself once the truth was laid bare? The laughter morphed into shrieks, a cacophony echoing through Jessica's skull. Each note resonated with a jagged edge, taunting her further. She was drowning in despair, the darkness pulsating like a living thing, hungry for her surrender. "Join us," they whispered again, but this time, the promise tinged with a new kind of seduction. "Knowledge is power, Jessica. What are you willing to sacrifice to save him?" Tom's form shimmered in the distance, his once warm eyes now mere voids promising nothing but despair. They played with her mind, weaving a tapestry of memories that threatened to unravel her completely. She could almost hear snippets of their shared laughter, flashes of joy now twisted into grotesque mockery. The shadows pressed closer, slithering around her, their coolness burning against her skin. With every heartbeat, she felt their grip tighten, pulling her deeper into the abyss, whispering vile secrets only they could reveal. Their threats mingled with temptation, weaving a sickening promise that sent bile rising up her throat. Would you trade your soul for the truth? For Tom? They lured her with the specter of knowledge she craved. Could knowing the reason for his torment do more than just shatter her heart? The very idea clawed at her sanity. To save him, you must plunge into the depths. Stop. Jessica screamed, fighting through the panic that gripped her. Just leave him alone. I'll do whatever it takes. Her words hung in the air, heavy and thick, and the shadows recoiled slightly, as if tasting her resolve. Then they surged forward, encircling her, their presence suffocating and dark. You show courage, but courage comes at a cost. Tom's form flickered again, growing more distorted with each pulse of the shadow's breaths. Jess, he croaked, please don't listen to them. The anguish in his voice pierced through her, sparking her will like kindling. Jessica's heart raced, powerful and defiant. Was he warning her, or was this the last flicker of hope before she fell? She had to know. She took a step forward, making the impossible choice to delve deeper into the void. Suddenly, the shadows erupted into a swirling tempest, their forms shifting like restless souls. She steadied herself, focusing on Tom, his figure flickering like a candle in the wind. Tell me why. She screamed, her voice a raw edge of determination. The shadows pulsed, vibrating with power. The walls seemed to open up, revealing twisted images of faces writhing in agony, trapped in their own despair. Look, they hissed, and the flickering images solidified into a scene laid bare for her eyes. A grotesque tableau unfolded. Tom, bound and tormented at the hands of the encroaching shadows that danced like puppeteers. This is your fault. Your love is what keeps him here. No. I loved him. She shouted, the truth shocking her as it left her lips. I would never hurt him. But she was afraid. Afraid that perhaps they spoke the truth. Then prove it, whispered the shadows, their tone cultivating dread. Step into the truth and embrace your fear. Only then can you save him. Jessica's resolve wavered, but in the depths of her despair, a flicker of hope glimmered. Was it enough? She clawed through the memories of laughter and love, digging deeper into her heart. If there was a chance, she had to take it, but at what price? The shadows tightened around her, pulsing in mock anticipation. Tom's desperate gaze searched hers, his voice trembling with despair. Don't do this. There are things you don't understand. The shadows coiled, eager for the sacrifice they craved. Embrace us. We show all. Jessica steadied her breath even as uncertainty clouded her mind. I need to save you. A haze blanketed her thoughts, and then the world exploded into light. A blinding flash washed over her, obscuring everything. Shadows faded, and in that moment, she felt torn, the light offering safety but the truth beckoning her. What would she choose? And how much of herself would she lose in the process? As the light dimmed, something began awakening within her. Would she find the answers that could set Tom free, or would she find herself engulfed by the dark instead? Jessica pushed forward, uncertain, but knowing she had to face the truth. What horrors lay in waiting on the other side? The very essence of their love, twisted and tortured, might not be what she thought. The light faded, revealing a twisted landscape soaked in a sickly, greenish hue. The air hung heavy, stinging her nostrils, making her retreat into her mind. Each step felt like a descent into another world, a realm of shadows and echoes that taunted her, reminding her that she was not alone. Welcome to the truth, a voice rumbled around her, a chilling blend of familiarity and disconnection. The shadows seemed to ripple as if they had a life of their own, whispering Jessica's name, coaxing her further into the nightmare. Where's Tom? She gasped, every breath a struggle against the suffocating ambience. She knew he was close, she could feel the pull of his presence. If she could just navigate through this void, perhaps she could save him. He is bound by your love and your fear, the shadows answered, their voices a sinister symphony that clawed at her sanity. And here is where you must choose. The ground beneath her feet shifted, morphing into a mosaic of her past, memories rising like specters from cracks in the earth. She stumbled, catching glimpses of moments, warm smiles that turned to tears, soft embraces that twisted into desperate pleas. You wanted to know, the shadows urged, their caressing whispers now laced with menace. Look! The scene warped into a kaleidoscope of memories, shifting and bending until she was aware of a new reality. Tom, standing at the edge of a cliff, his eyes wild with panic. She heard her own voice, ringing hollow in the darkness, pleading for him not to jump. Why did you say that? Shadows stretched grotesquely, her past morphing into grotesque mockery. Was it fear driving you away? Or was it something deeper? Something you don't even want to acknowledge? Jessica clutched her head, trying to block out the twisted footage blurring in front of her. Anguish gripped her heart as she once again faced the moment, the betrayal of silence, the fear of losing him, all her insecurities converging into this one heart-wrenching memory. No! She cried out, but the shadows sank deeper into her mind. I never wanted to hurt him. I loved him. Your love is a chain, Jessica, they cooed, their silken voices caressing her ears, their words seeping into her thoughts. It binds him to this horror, to you. The sacrifice, dear girl, is your acceptance of the truth. Stand here, release him or keep him forever in this torment. Her heart raced. The weight of their words seeped into her bones. Did she truly want to face the truth? The cost of acknowledging her hidden fears felt immeasurable. She took a step back, a flicker of doubt sparking her resolve. Do you see? Tom's voice shattered through the haze, desperate and frantic. You can't give in to them. Don't let them take you. She turned to him, the flickering figure receding into the shadows, his anguish igniting a fire within her. I want to let you go. She screamed, voice raw with determination, her heartbeat matching the haunting rhythm of the whispering void. The shadows erupted into chaotic laughter, mocking her defiance. You think you can resist? Look into the truth, Jessica. It's the only way to save him. As despair threatened to swallow her whole, an idea sparked within her, igniting a fierce determination. Could she face the essence of her feelings? The truth she had locked away, the fear of her own darkness? Come on, Jess, it's now or never, she whispered to herself, gathering the remnants of her courage. The shadows shifted, swirling around her, eager to engulf her spirit, her heart hammered violently in her chest as the realization dawned on her. The sacrifice didn't have to be her soul. What if it was the acceptance of her fears instead? The understanding that love could save and also destroy. Inwardly steadying herself, Jessica stepped forward, deeper into the tempest of shadows. Show me. She challenged, embracing that vulnerable truth. I'll face it. Show me the darkness I need to confront. The shadows roiled, hesitating before surging towards her, their laughter morphing into an orchestrated howling that rattled her bones. An unseen force pulled at her, threatening to tear her apart as she fought her way through the oppressive darkness. Eyes set on the faint flicker, she still held on to Tom's fleeting figure, desperate but resolute. But as the shadows thickened, a creeping sense of dread washed over her. What if confronting the truth only led her to a reality more terrifying than she could imagine? Suddenly, pain erupted within her. A piercing scream shattered the silence. Was it hers? Or was it Tom's? The shadows tightened their grip, laughing, hungry for her surrender. Do you truly wish to save him? The truth will claim everything. Terror closed around her like a vice. Would she shatter under the weight of their demands, or could she emerge a victor or a casualty of her own soul's reckoning? The shadows dimmed, threatening to consume her entirely. What awaited her beyond the luminous haze of truth, and at what cost? The shadows surged, and Jessica felt their icy fingers probing at the very essence of her being. Her skin prickled, the chill seeping into her bones, threatening to snuff out the faint light of hope she clung to. The memory of Tom lingered just beyond reach, a flicker of a flame in a storm of darkness, urging her forward. Face it. The shadows hissed, voices writhing in a chaotic chorus. What have you kept buried? Stop. She shouted, the word tearing from her throat like a desperate plea. But their laughter grew louder, echoing off unseen walls, wrapping tightly around her neck. She gasped for air, her heart racing as fragments of her fears clawed their way to the surface. She saw images flicker before her, Tom's smile fading into a deep frown, his laughter replaced with anguished cries. Memories of what could have been twisted into accusations against her, daring her to confront the truth she had long buried in denial. The realization crept in, her love for Tom had not just tethered him to her. It had chained him to her darkest fears, the fears she was too afraid to confront. Your truth, it waits, they whispered, seductive yet menacing, slithering into her mind like smoke. Acknowledge the darkness, Jessica. Shed the light for him to be free. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet gave way, and she was falling, slipping through the darkness. She reached out, fingers clawing at nothing, the familiar weightlessness sending her heart into her throat. Just as abruptly, she found herself standing on a precipice, a desolate cliff much like the one from her memories, the greenish haze swirling ominously around her. Tom! She screamed into the void, the sound swallowed by the infinite black. The shadows shifted again, the taste of fear like copper on her tongue, and she felt a profound weight at her core pulling at her spirit. She needed to find him. Pay the price, the shadows hissed, their voices intertwining, teasing her with promises of what could lie ahead. What must you sacrifice for love? Her thoughts raced, heart pounding louder, louder. Could she let go of guilt? By clinging to it, what had she done to Tom? She had suffocated him with the weight of her fears. The thought struck her like lightning, igniting a spark of defiance in the heart of her despair. I won't let you take him. She shouted, defiantly challenging the shadows that wrapped around her tight enough to leave bruises. I'll face my truth. Then let the darkness in. The command was swift, like a knife slicing through the air, and she felt an immediate shift. Energy swirled around her, dark and palpable, pushing her towards confronting what she had hidden for so long. Suddenly, the earth shuddered, tearing at the seams of her reality. Objects materialized in the void, frayed photographs, broken trinkets, remnants of her past spinning towards her with a ferocity that made her heart race. No! She screamed, stumbling back. But something gripped her, a memory breaking the surface, filling her lungs with the stench of regret. It was the last fight she had with Tom, words like daggers exchanged in the heat of anger, truths she had refused to acknowledge swirling around her. Everything is on the line, they chanted, shadows swirling like a maelstrom. You've argued in your mind, but will you accept the cost? Stop! She cried, falling to her knees, the raw vulnerability pierced through the anger. Will you recognize your part? Their voices enveloped her, merging with the winds that howled around her. Breathless, Jessica searched herself for the courage she needed. Could love withstand all of this? She squeezed her eyes shut, and in that darkness, she sought the answer buried deep within. Would she face her deepest fears? Or would she surrender to the shadows, sacrificing Tom to the very thing that threatened to consume them both? Time seemed to stretch as the grasp of the shadows tightened, their laughter echoing with hollow triumph. So much hung in the balance. Only one chance remained, and then, through the haze of dark whispers and swirling shadows, a single thought crystallized. Tom! She shouted with a finality that shattered the ominous air. I choose love. I choose to confront this. But the darkness pulsed wickedly in response. What would that choice unleash? The shadows hissed an ominous reply, each syllable dripping with malice. You can't take back the past, Jessica. Are you prepared for the consequences? In that moment, everything hung in the balance. Would she pay the price, content that love would conquer all, or would the truth unravel into a horror she could never escape? And just as she was ready to leap into the void, a haunting shadow reformed into something darker, speeding towards her, eyes glinting with malice. Jessica, it whispered with a voice far too familiar. Was it Tom or something else entirely? The very essence of her darkest fears converging into a single figure, heart-pounding, she faced what lay ahead. Whatever came next, it would change everything. Darkness enveloped Jessica like a suffocating shroud, and her heartbeat thundered in her ears. The shadow racing towards her came into focus, revealing a twisted reflection of Tom, his face, once filled with warmth, now contorted with anguish and rage. The thing that wore his shape stopped inches from her, its eyes glimmering like bottomless pits, pulling her in. "Jessica," it moaned, a cold, jagged sound that pricked the hairs on her arms. "Why did you abandon me?" "No!" she shouted, her voice quaking. "You're not him." "Am I not?" The echo of Tom's voice slithered through the air, dripping with sorrow and betrayal. "You left me, and now you're trying to escape what you've done. You can't run from your own heart. Stop it. You don't know me." Panic surged through her, an electrifying jolt, as the shadows below pulsated at her feet, hungry as wolves circling prey. The mockery twisted into an agonizing cry, trapping her in a familiar fear, a fear that had long held her hostage. "Face it, Jessica. The wreckage of your past demands a reckoning." In a heartbeat, a barrage of familiar memories engulfed her. Their laughter under the stars, the warmth of his hand in hers, the unyielding love that became her anchor. But scattered within were fragments of their last fight, words exchanged in a torrent of hurt, tears, and the shattering of dreams. The truth she refused to see clawed at her insides like a wild animal desperate to get free. "No!" she protested, falling backward, the cliff's edge sharp and reality shattering beneath her. I can't face that." The shadows surged, drowning out her fear. "What is your love worth, Jessica? How many souls will you sacrifice to save your own?" As her breath quickened, she could feel the weight of her indecision. The tormented reflection of Tom melted into the dark, a tempest of shadows swirling, as if they were eager to consume her whole. She felt the chilling grip of despair wrap tightly around her heart. It squeezed relentlessly, forcing her to confront her truth. "Let me go," she wailed, clawing at the dark, her soul battling against the inevitability that loomed over her, yet, the shadows were unyielding, wrapping around her like a vice. "There can be no escape from what you've wrought." Her vision distorted as a claustrophobic dread filled her, muffling all sound except for her racing heart. Reflecting deep within, a flicker of hope ignited. What if she could turn the tide? Unravel the web of her fears? She had to confront the darkness head-on or forever lose the chance to save Tom, the memory of his laughter suffocating in the void. "What must I do?" she whispered, her voice trembling but strong against the chaos. "Tell me." In that moment of resignation, a terrible silence cloaked her, hovering like a thick fog. The shadows seemed to lean in, hungry for her response. "Will you sacrifice the life you wanted for the one you loved?" But the shadows, like a living entity, recoiled slightly, eagerly awaiting her answer, their anticipation suffocating. "Choose, Jessica," they whispered, their seductive menace wrapping around her heart. "Will it be love, or will it be freedom?" Just then, out of the corner of her eye, she caught movement, the flicker of a figure at the edge of the cliff, a silhouette draped in shadow. It beckoned her forward, urging Jessica to step closer to the precipice. "Jessica," the figure called with a voice that resonated with her memories but laced with something sinister. "Please don't do this," she cried, her voice breaking as the abyss loomed larger than ever. Every nerve in her body screamed at her to retreat, yet the figure moved closer, a chilling smile revealing more than just darkness. It was a face too familiar. A face that melted her heart and shattered her resolve. As the shadows closed in, a choice crystallized in her consciousness, her heart racing with clarity. The abyss, the laughter, the whispers, everything she feared lay before her. If she chose the dark, what would emerge from it? And if she chose love, what horrors would she unleash? In that raw moment of decision, with shadows swirling and laughter echoing ominously behind her, Jessica took a step, heart pounding, towards the figure. The darkness crackled with energy, waiting, what's your choice, Jessica? The question hung between them, sounding less like a query and more like a threat. As the weight of her decision pressed down on her, everything seemed poised, balanced on the knife edge of impending doom. What would she say next? Would the darkness finally claim her forever? Jessica stood trembling on the precipice, the swirling shadows threatening to swallow her whole. Every heartbeat echoed with the question, what would she choose? Behind her lay the warmth of her past, tangled in love and regret. In front of her, shadows twisted, laughter ricocheting with menace. Tom! She cried, the name bursting forth like a lifeline. I won't abandon you. The twisted figure shrieked, morphing back into the grotesque specter of Tom, its voice dripping with disdain. You can't save me. You're the one holding onto the chains, Jessica. Her heart dropped. No. She couldn't accept that. The years of laughter, joy, love, they could not become a mere binding, could they? Face it, the shadows hissed, slithering closer, their icy grip sinking into her thoughts. You've suffocated yourself with fear. You've kept him bound with your doubts. The memories flooded her mind each moment, sweet and bitter, swirling in a chaotic dance. The last argument, their words harsh like ice. Why won't you just commit? She had shouted. The fight they had that turned love to resentment, laughter to sorrow. I didn't know, she murmured, the realization cutting deep. I didn't know fear could bind love. Then choose. The shadows snarled, circling her like vultures. Choose to embrace the darkness, or carve a path to truth. Her eyes searched through the gloom. Tom, I love you. I need to face the truth of what has kept us apart. Hope flickered, igniting her determination. Say it. The shadows taunted, drawing dangerously closer, thickening the air with dread. Say that you're ready to sacrifice. Trembling, she squared her shoulders. Yes. I choose love. I choose to face my fears. The shadows recoiled at her proclamation, as if struck. You think love will conquer all? They sneered. Love comes at a price. The ground beneath her shifted violently, and the darkness wailed. Face the truth. Are you willing to let him go to free both of you? Niggles of doubt clawed at her. But what if he cannot be saved? Then embrace the truth of your darkness. They raked at her soul, whispering vile promises. But know this, love without courage leaves only scars. All at once, the images before her flickered into clarity, a memory revealing Tom's face. The longing, the love, mixed into a storm of pain and uncertainty. We both deserve to be free, she whispered, fighting against doubt. Then step into the shadow, only there can you find courage, they urged, the cries coiling around her as if waiting to fade into vindication. No! She screamed. I won't let fear dictate love. Gathering her strength, Jessica closed her eyes, the memory of Tom burning brightly in her mind. I love you, she whispered, and I won't let you suffer because of me. The shadows roared, their cacophony relentless, a wall of darkness ringing in her ears. But Jessica stepped forward with conviction, and in her heart, she felt Tom's warmth. I choose to accept my fears. The shadows shrieked, claws scraping at her soul. Jessica braced against the onslaught, channeling the courage she'd buried for so long. Suddenly, a brilliant light burst forth, engulfing her whole. The shadows shrank, withering before the warmth of her love. She felt Tom's essence within her heart, a tether that pulsed with reawakening. Let him go. A voice thundered, strong and deep. Free us both. She cried, believing with every fiber that love transcended even the darkest of bonds. The shadows wailed, folding in on themselves, but the light surged, reclaiming the space. Jessica opened her eyes, and glimpsed Tom, his figure glowing, radiant against fading darkness. Jessica, he breathed, his voice now sweet with hope. You did it. The shadows grasped at her retreating, but through that light, Jessica felt the chains shatter. A powerful wave of realization rushed through her. Love is not a chain, it's freedom. She shouted, the truth buoying her spirit. With that declaration, the last remnants of darkness flickered, evaporating into nothingness. The haunted echoes of the past fell silent, and the world shifted back into focus, looming around them was Maplewood, transformed, no longer a cage but a sanctuary. Tom stood before her, a laughing flicker of warmth returning to his face. They were no longer entangled in shadows, but united in love once more. Jessica. Tom pulled her close, his embrace stronger than fear. You saved us. Gratitude bubbled within her. We both needed to be brave, she murmured, finally at peace. And as the first rays of dawn broke over Maplewood, the darkness that had hunted her faded with the night. In that moment of clarity, they both understood that love had conquered fear, not through denial but through the courage to embrace truth. And as they stepped forward into the light of a new day, they did so hand in hand, ready to face whatever future awaited them together. With every promise renewed, they were free. Now, if you enjoyed this roller coaster of emotions and twists, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep these stories coming. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through your likes, shares, and comments.